वेलकम बैक नाजरीन. अब हमारी बात हो रही थी कि मेमोरी लेन्स के हवाले से. We went down many memory lanes and there's one memory that comes to mind. वैसे देखें तो काफी नाजुक मौजू है.
Nice.
पर नाजुक सूरत हाल पे भी हम मतलब एक मजाहिया किस्म की तनकीद कर सकते हैं. We can definitely find comedy in tragedy even.
Absolutely.
It's often a way to cope with it, a way to see like like something positive even in like a negative situation.
Mm-hmm.
But मुझे याद है यार कि ये जो वाक्य मैंने सुनाया आपको, बंदे का नाम हमजा था.
हमेशा यार हमजा ऐसे ही निकलता है.
पता नहीं क्यों यार, क्योंकि I like the name Hamza a lot, और मेरा एक one of my favorite guitarists as well was Ali Hamza.
Oh, yeah, agreed, yeah.
क्योंकि Nuri यार, I mean,
Nuri.
they weren't as big as like Call or Strings or EP, but यार Nuri का level और था,
हाँ. काफी अच्छे थे उसके गाने.
बहुत कमाल के गाने. And they were willing to like their lyrics were so meaningful. Like sure. I can't think of many rock bands that had such meaningful lyrics at the time, like as good as the other ones were, their lyrics were generally about the same things, like love and mohabbat and all these things, and like but man, they had this one song. Have you heard Manware?
I have Manware. I have it on my playlist. It's about 20-30 songs deep, but like about 2 months ago I really got into Nuri again. This is when we talked about Call, by the way, कि मैं नूरी पर भी चला गया था. और यार नूरी के मतलब काफ़ी साल हुए उसकी गाने से, मगर एक है जो पार चना दे, and that's from Coke Studio, and it's an old song, but they did redo it. जो सोनी मेहवाल की मोहब्बत होते है उसकी है. और यार मनवारे तो मैं 4-5 गाने हैं जो नूरी का मुझे मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद है, और उनमें एक है मनवारे यार.
Bro, मनवारे मेरे लिए यार टॉप में 2 गाने हैं, जिनमें से एक मनवारे हैं.
हाँ,
दूसरा यार है मेरे लोग. आपने शायद ये सुना होगा.
यार जरूर मुझे भी पसंद है.
पर हाँ ब्रो, ये मनवारे यार, अगर आपने वीडियो देखा होगा उसका, तो it gives away a little bit about what the lyrics are about. The whole song is about, man, like sex trade in Pakistan, like prostitution.
और काफी अजीब है भाई.
हाँ bro, the whole song is like about a sex worker, because ये Lahore का एक इलाका है. If you've watched the video, man, it's beautiful. Like the way it's shot.
It is.
It's from like the 2000s, so the quality is like very classic 2000s,
Yeah.
And the whole city is like different shots of Lahore, like different clips of Lahore, like videos of like Lahori streets, and like different shots of the city, different like clips of the city, especially at nighttime when like the sex work really is at its, is at its peak. And Lahore mein ek ilaka hai, which is where the red light district is, and jahan ये तमाम चीजें होती हैं, it's like the हीरा मंडी.
हाँ. वैसे मैं गया नहीं.
It's really like हाँ, मैं तो कभी नहीं गया, पर आपने नाम शायद सुना होगा, and हाँ bro, I mean, and it's so like tough to even talk about these things. पहली बात तो इन पे लोग कोई खुल के बात नहीं करता, because it's at odds with Pakistan's,
हाँ यार,
being just मुल्क के नाम में पाक है, and जहाँ everything is Islamic,
And dude, like honestly, मैं ये मानता भी नहीं था कि this is so swept under the carpet कि अगर मैं मतलब reputable source से ये सुना नहीं था कि मैं सिर्फ मानता भी नहीं भाई कि ये पाकिस्तान में हो सकता है.
सच में यार, क्योंकि it's like everything is supposed to be about purity and you know about like इज्जत पे और गैरत पे आज जिस मुल्क में मतलब कत्लो गारत हो जाती है कि you know वहाँ आप सोचो कि इस तरह की जब this thing is like a whole trade, you know. It's something that even cops are in on. Like cops get paid to look the other way.
Yeah.
It's very like systematic. It's very organized. It's not like you know, like isolated incidents. It's like a whole like informal economy. You know? Yup. And yeah, man. I mean, it stems from poverty, of course. You know, in a country like Pakistan and in poor parts of Punjab, you know, like it's people who don't have, you know, the means to survive. But bro, it is swept under the rug, and that's why I was like so shocked, man, when I found out what the song is about, because it's one of those things, man. Like lyrical, you know, the lyrics just sound so pure and like so innocent. It sounds like just about like any other love song, you know. But it's really about the life of a sex worker, and you know, and Lahore. No one would have imagined yet, but boy, Hamza se kahan aa gaya? Hamza se, you know, we're dreamer. But bro, ek dafa na we so I found out about what happened with Hamza and how he got kicked out of there, and you know, guess if I was like really, वो चाहते थे कि इस बंदे की लेनी चाहिए, you know, after what he did.
Nice.
Like he didn't even really face any real consequences. Like sure, he lost his job, but then he just got a better paying job, like across the street, you know. And तो मुझे याद है हम लोग कहीं से वापस आ रहे थे मैं और कैसे भाई तो this is the time when I must have told you like he introduced me as like कि ये यार Clifton से हैं, you know. And he wanted me to go along with it, but that's the guy he introduced me to.
Nice.
And then
वैसे यार आप तो लगते हैं Clifton की बंदे काफी upper middle class लगते हैं भाई.
हाँ bro, Clifton मैंने सुना है काफी अच्छा इलाका है इधर.
काफी अच्छा इलाका है.
Like but नहीं defense quality से बिल्कुल, you know, it's like defense quality and then like Clifton, you know.
हाँ कराची में यार वैसे एक तरीका है जैसे वो डिफेंस कहते हैं भाई, मुझे याद नहीं, मैं कल सुना था डिफेंस हाँ सही
डिफेंस
हाँ यार डिफेंस पीपसी ये अजीब तरीका है.
ये तमाम जो पंजाबियत है उनकी ज़बान में आती है
वाकई. मगर यार हम इतने गुम हो रहा है कि ये वॉक टू रिमेम्बर यार हमें ही याद नहीं कहाँ चल रहा है
किस रास्ते आए थे. यार ये बात तो ये कितना हम बात कर रहे थे उनसे, तो अब तक तो हमें सबको पता चल गया था कि इस बंदे ने क्या किया है, you know. It was like we heard it from the source himself, you know, the guy who fired him. तो you know he goes like they start talking about like, you know, कि आपकी फैमिली वगैरह है, क्या आपके बच्चे हैं, तो he's like आपके बच्चे हैं, and कैसे भाई goes नहीं है, अरे he's like अच्छा होंगे भी तो गटर में होंगे.
No way dude, what nice very Mathura.
And then because then he's like तो आपको मतलब मुठ मारने पे क्या ख्याल है, you know. And he's Hamza goes like यार अगर religious point of view से देखे तो सही नहीं है.
No way. Yeah.
And I'm like hot bro, because the guy has no idea that we know about what happened, you know? So, ऐसी चीजें सुना रहे as if like, you know, he's never jerked in his life, you know. And और जैसे कि हमें पता ही थी कि ये असल में कितना बड़ा, you know, ज़लील बंदा है. और हाँ bro, इस तरह की जो हरकतें हैं, unfortunately it's still like something that dudes do, you know.
हाँ यार मैं वैसे पूछना चाहता हूँ, वैसे काफ़ी खूबसूरत कहानी था कि मैं भी मानता हूँ कि जो इस तरीके के बंदे होते हैं like जो हरामी लगता है वो like we talked about the enforcer, you know, जो बंदे ऐसे लगते हैं वो यार हमेशा स्वीट बंदे निकलता है, और जो ये शरीफ और जो अम्मी अब्बू की पसंद की बंदे लगते हैं ना, वो हमेशा ऐसी हराम की हरकतें उसकी होता है। मगर यार मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि मुझे पता है कि आपको भी समझने आएंगे, मगर guys who and this is against the people or the community that we represent, कि the guys who are inappropriate with women or touch them inappropriately or misbehave with them or the date rape guys, the inappropriate touching guys, the catcalling guys, मुझे आज तक एक तो बात, मैं ये पाक इंसान नहीं देखना चाहता, मैं भी काफ़ी हरामी हूँ, मैंने भी काफ़ी गलत काम की है, मगर ऐसे नहीं कि इससे मुझे कभी इनकी मतलब समझ नहीं आते कि ये करने से क्या मिलता है, कि लड़की तो आपको पसंद नहीं करेंगे, मगर मुझे समझ नहीं आते कि इस बंदे की क्या सोच है, कि क्या होने वाला है भाई तुम्हारे सोच में ये। वैसे हम शायद वो फिल्म की बात पर लौट आएंगे कि फिल्म में तो बंदी तो मिल जाते हैं, मगर अक्सर ज़िंदगी में ये नहीं होता है। आप तो नॉर्मली केस फाइल हो जाता है और बंदी तो आपसे नाराज़ ही रहता है, तो पता नहीं कि क्या मिल जाए यार, सोच क्या है।
Huh, bro, I think it's just there's so many influences on us as on our minds, where this stuff is so normalized everywhere we see, like even like you might remember commercials for Axe के उसमें दिखाते थे कि आप ये लगाओगे तो बंदी आप पे बनने लगेगी,
और यार like, both Karsh and I are living proof that is not true.
यार हमने तो हम एक्स नहाते थे।
वाकई यार, जो एक्स की चॉकलेट था मेरे इतने था भाई कि वैसे आजकल ये डियोर की सोवाश जो है वो आज एक्स चॉकलेट ही है, मगर यार बंदे
that's the new Axe.
Yeah, and I stay off it. Like if I see a bottle, I will throw it against the wall, कि मुझे पता है कि इनसे कुछ नहीं हो रहा है भाई। Like it's alright to smell decent, like मैं ये तो नहीं कहूँगा कि don't bathe, but at the same time यार लड़की ऐसे नहीं गिरते, ये तो ज़रूर है।
हाँ, ये तो कभी नहीं हुआ यार जिंदगी में, I mean it's obviously important to smell nice, but पहली बात तो Axe doesn't even smell nice,
वाकई यार, it smells like crap, और I feel like we have a class action lawsuit at our hands कि हमारे उम्र की सब बंदे को मिलवाओ भाई Axe को। हम पता नहीं आजकल चल रहे कि नहीं, मगर they owe us for what they promise, false advertising.
False advertising.
कहा था बंदी भाई, मैं आज तक सिंगल हूँ।
Oh fuck bro, नहीं सही में यार, I mean this is like इस पे तो हमें we should be compensated, we were sold a lie, और वो जो हमने कितने रियाल खर्च किए होंगे Axe की बोतलों पे।
हाँ यार, मुझे पैसे भी चाहिए और जो लड़की भी उसने मतलब वादा की थी ये भी चाहिए। वैसे मजाक कर रहा हूँ, मुझे दोनों नहीं चाहिए, बट भाई यार हम कैसे बेवकूफ़ थे यार। वैसे आजकल भी इस तरह की एड्स चल रहे भाई कि जो फॉग होता है, मैं वैसे जब क्रिकेट देखता हूँ फॉग की एड देखता हूँ, मगर आजकल भी ये मतलब बेवकूफ़ बंदे लेके जा रहे हैं कि उन्हें पता है। मगर ये तो मैं मानता हूँ कि जो टीनेजर्स होता है, जो बंदे होता है वैसे नहाते ज़्यादा रहे तो इसकी फॉग से भी कुछ काम तो चलता है भाई कि इट्स नेसेसरी ईवो, बट एट द सेम टाइम पता नहीं यार, लाइक बंदे को अगर कुछ सेल करना है तो सिर्फ इतना बताना कि बंदी तो गिर जाएंगे, और यार आज तक एक भी बंदी गिरे नहीं होंगे इससे।
भाई आपने इतनी कमाल की बात की है, it's like that's really the way to advertise anything to men. It's like show them, tell them that girls will love you if you buy this product, and they'll buy it. I remember one of my favorite comedians, man, probably my favorite comedian actually in India, is Karunesh Talwar, who talks about the difference between Fair and Lovely and Fair and Handsome. Like if you look at the ads for each, right? He's like Fair and Handsome के ads बड़े simple होते हैं, It's like बड़ा सीधा सा concept है कि आपको sex मिल जाएगा, कि पहले आपको sex नहीं मिल रहा था, अब आपने क्रीम लगाया और मैं बन गया सेक्स का सरताज, मैं बन गया सेक्स का सेनापति, मैं हूँ सेक्स का संवाददाता.
Nice.
Dude, just all the alliterations with S here. He just hits every single one.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to talk about the difference, the opposite. He's like, but he's like, when you look at Fair and Lovely, on the other hand, they like go into like a woman's deepest insecurities.
Yeah. Say.
And that's how they try to sell to women, you know, just by appealing to their like innermost insecurities, and then you know, like their skin type or like their hair or any number of things that they might be insecure about, and then get them now, because you know, obviously they can't use like sex marketing for women, right? Like that's not how going to work with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, marketers are quite unethical, man, when you think about it. Like, I mean, we've known this for a long time. I think since the tobacco days. I mean, if you watch Mad Men, you know, like you already know.
Yeah, Mad Men's one of my favorite shows. It's very nice, man.
It is. It is very good, man. But yeah, dude. I mean, since the old tobacco days when tobacco marketing was legal, we knew just how like corrupt and soulless these guys are. That you know. Like they full well know like what they're doing, you know, and know that they're like
they came up with sex cells, didn't they? They're the ones who pioneered that. But
yeah, man. Yeah. Sex. Yep. Sex and blood. If it bleeds, it leads. Also that either.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. But यार वैसे अच्छी बात कहा आपने कि काफी डिस्कस करने की लायक है. But it is true. Like men want nothing more than to be loved. But I read this discussion recently. Like मैंने काफी बार ये सुना है कि you know men are always confused as to why women get plastic surgery or like dress well or like take care of themselves, and women always come up to tell them we know कि जो बंदे हमारी जिंदगी में है वो उसे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. We don't do it for the men, you know. So many women have said that कि the reason that they look after themselves is not for the men. And ये सही है कि you know the part that hits for a woman is their insecurities. और वैसे मैं ये इस बात पर भी बात करना चाहता था कि आपकी क्या ओपिनियन है या आपकी क्या कहना है इस बात पर जो हमारे जो ज़माने है जो गोरे गोरे रंग के obsessed होता है. और ये भी बात यार मैं ज़्यादा नहीं कहता कि at some points both of us I guess have to stay away from this, because एक तो बात हमारे टाइप वो है, दूसरी बात यह है कि हम उसकी मतलब काफ़ी इस्तेमाल कर सकता है कि you know you can't talk about something that you're blessed with having, you know you can't be a dude with like acres of land talking about the problems of जो ज़मींदार होता है या वो सिस्टम होता है, like you know that we have we can't हम दोनों so मैं सिर्फ जानना चाहता हूँ if somebody is listening and you think you know ये दो गोरे बंदे क्या बात कर रहे हैं, इन्हें क्या पता हमारे क्या मसले होता है. Like we apologize, we just want to hear each other's opinions, you know, like
नहीं यार बात सही है आपकी, you know, because I mean we know nothing about colorism, you know, exactly. Like we've never really experienced that, you know, and if anything, man,
we are at the receiving end of this, yeah.
हाँ bro, जो cricket team है हमने बनाई थी, you know.
Oh, हम नहीं भाई, आप. मैं था आपका साथ. मगर याद यार जो हैरिसन है ना, आज तक उसकी ज़िंदगी में सबसे बड़ी बेइज्जती ये है कि वो उस क्रिकेट टीम की दोबारा साइड की कैप्टन था.
But यार ये I think of it just हो सकता है हम उस वक्त ये सोच रहे थे कि you know चेस में भी तो black and white टीम होती है.
हाँ ज़रूर, हाँ जस्टिफाई हम कुछ भी कर सकते हैं भाई. जो साउथ अफ्रीका में चला था वो भी ऐसे कुछ हुआ था.
But you know Just maybe the white goes first, you know?
God damn, man. Yeah, like, खुदा ना खास्ता. क्या करे भाई, हमारे सोच भी कम था उस जमाने में. आज भी है मगर तब भी था.
But I mean, it is like, I know what you mean. It is a very sensitive subject, and it is something that, in general, I try not to talk about because, you know,
people get offended.
I know there are people like if Harrison were to talk about it, you know, I would be like, yeah, I completely understand. It's just a man talking about his own experience with colorism, with favoritism, and like, you know, just bullying as well, like, you know, colorist bullying. And that's a reality, man. I mean, even when you look at a lot of like the reason why South Indians are portrayed, like their portrayal is so like stereotypical in Bollywood.
Yeah.
A lot of it does come from that colorism of like seeing, you know, dark skinned people as like, you know, lesser than. And and this kind of like superiority complex towards them. Like I remember, I'll never forget this, right? I mean, I had a friend, she's Pakistani originally. I think she grew up there as well, but then she grew up mostly in Saudi though, you know, that's where she lived.
Nice.
But she's Pakistani, you know, and then I remember, you know, जिस तरह हमें पाकिस्तान के बारे में कुछ ज़्यादा ही मालूम है ना
जी
वैसे एक बार she was like sharing things that she knows about India with me
no
and then and मुझे यार कुछ चीजें याद हैं, you know, she was like because she was like in Saudi में उसके सारे दोस्त इंडिया से थे, you know, जैसे ऑस्ट्रेलिया में मेरे सारे दोस्त पाकिस्तानी थे. तो this happens a lot, you know, you have like mixed friend groups like that. So one of the things I'll never forget that she told me, you know, this is kind of like an inside knowledge that she had is like, like she's like North Indians think they're superior to South Indians.
Yeah.
Right?
She figured it out. Oh, nice.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, I have heard of that, you know, and like obviously if you spend a lot of time in any culture or subculture, you will like start to see, you know, a lot of the biases that exist in any community as well. So she did mention that, and to be fair, man, it exists all over the subcontinent, like even in Pakistan, it's very seen, you know, part of the reason they see themselves, like some families see themselves as superior, like, you know, usually the upper caste families, like, like, you know, jo unchi biradri ke log hain, you know, so to speak.
Yeah.
A big part of it does come from the color thing, like where, you know, they benefit from looking the way they do.
True.
And yeah, man, I think it is best left to people who've experienced it because, you know, but yeah, the older I get, man, the more I realize how wrong it was. And I do feel bad for that, you know, because it is, at the age of 12, we didn't know any better, even though, even though I think we should have, you know, or should have at least, someone should have told us that, you know, just how, like,
racist,
like, yeah, and like how it's like not okay to do, you know, like I don't think we had that kind of like talk from anyone, like our teachers and stuff even. Didn't address that, you know, in class. I see them do that a lot more here. Like teachers will talk about that in class if they hear something that's like not on, you know. And we never did it around teachers anyway, you know. We were smarter than that.
True.
Yeah,
we were not going to be that dumb, But dude, आजकल भी होता है कि जो पाकिस्तान की जो stump mics होते हैं ना, the previous captain was like in a controversy where he called probably West Indian, like ये काला बंदा. तो होते हैं आजकल भी, and
बहुत हाँ.
और यार ये भी चलता है कि you know पैर काला होता है कि लड़कियों की, and that's kind of looked down upon in Pakistan everywhere, like, you know, it doesn't completely match, बट यार एक तो बात यह है कि जो हैरिसन है बंदा तो 5 करोड़ के बंदा है तो काफ़ी तरक्की की उसने, काफ़ी अच्छी लड़कियों से मिले हैं। और यार मेरे एक दोस्त था यूनिवर्सिटी में, काफ़ी पढ़े लिखे थे, काफ़ी रिसर्च करते थे बंदा, और बंदे ने ना और ऐसे काफ़ी फूकते भी थे तो एक दिन बंदे ने मुझे हम तो काफ़ी अच्छे दोस्त हैं, बंगाली है वैसे, तो उसने मुझसे कहा कि यार मेरे एक थियरी है और मेरे पास पूरे प्रूफ है। तो मैंने पूछा यार, मतलब नॉर्मली हमारे बात एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स पर चलते थे, तो पूछा उनसे कि यार क्या है थियरी आपके, और उसने कहा men find fair women beautiful। एंड तो मैंने उनसे पूछा कि यार भाई जो आपने निकाला ना, ये तो सब जानते हैं भाई कि इट्स लाइक अ स्टीरियोटाइप, इट्स नॉट लाइक यू फाउंड समथिंग दैट वाज मिसिंग। ही इज लाइक नो आई हैव प्रूफ। और यार 2 घंटे के लिए बंदे ने एक्चुअली प्रूफ मुझे दिखवा दी कि सर्वेस होते हैं पूरे, and like he actually showed me the data on men's preferences in women, and ये subcontinent की related नहीं था, overall like men have a thing for women who are fair, and I'm like यार ये तो fair and lovely की तो research आपने की है, एंड यार ये यूनिवर्सिटी की मतलब 8 साल उतने ही पहले थे, तो ज़माना तो बदल गए थे, मगर यार काफ़ी सेंसिटिव टॉपिक है, और जैसे मैंने कहा हम तो इसकी ज़्यादा नहीं बात कर सकते कि इट्स लाइक वाइट पीपल टॉकिंग अबाउट राइसिज्म, हमें क्या पता भाई। तो मगर यार मुझे लगता है कि एक तो बात यह है कि आई थिंक इट्स अ पर्सनल राइट्स टू हैव अ टाइप, कि आई कांट रियली चूज हु आई एम अट्रैक्टेड टू, अगर मेरे टाइप है तो टाइप है भाई, and that's not personal, that's not me being racist, it's not like I don't have a problem with other people or anything, मगर मुझे मोहब्बत नहीं होते उतना ही है। I don't think you're lesser than us, so like if anything I'm probably lesser than most human beings, मैं अपने आप को उतना नहीं मानता, but apart from the subcontinent this is also something that happens here as well, कि इस रीजन की जो मिडल ईस्ट अफ्रीका, देयर वाज अ स्लेव ट्रेड नॉट टू लॉन्ग बैक, एंड इट वाज स्लेव्स फ्रॉम अफ्रीका हु वर ब्रॉट, एंड आजकल भी जो अबीद कहते हैं लाइक एब्द, like that's just a dark skinned person gets called that very often and it just means slave, कि उस जमाने की वो सोच था आजकल भी चल रहा है।
हाँ बिल्कुल यार, ये तो आपने सही बात की है। And recently there was a lot of violence in North Africa against like just Africans living there. Many of them are like students or like people are working there. But again, North Africa is still in Africa, right? So it borders all of these countries, neighboring countries. And people move there for various reasons, work, study, etc. And yeah, there were like mobs going around just killing like black Africans who were living in those countries, like in Tunisia. And yeah, man, this kind of stuff is very deep seated in the Middle East too. Just like really like looking down upon dark skinned people, especially Africans, because this Middle East slave trade goes really far back, even farther back than like the European slave trade.
True.
And yeah, you might have seen, man, there are many I mean, they've given them citizenship, like they're black Qataris. Or like black Emiratis, but they're descendants of like of slaves who were brought to the country, so like it's like you do see like legacies of that in today's world as well. Like there's no intermarrying between them and other like Qatari families.
True.
And yeah, man, I know what you mean. Like it is pretty universal, like the preference for fair skin. Like I think a part of it stems from the fact that the whole world was colonized by European countries at some point, like by white colonizers at some point. So people who were colonized, they did internalize this idea of, of light skin being better and like, pure, and this idea that black represents like its opposite, or like any kind of darker shade represents its opposite. But yeah, man, there is a lot of like, a lot of that that's starting to change now. I think, with more representation. I think a lot of it comes from media too. People. Like we talked about stalking, right? Like if it's been normalized in media to the point where a lot of dudes think it's normal to act out. Even our like standards of beauty, like a lot of those come from media as well.
Sure.
They're influenced by what we consume, right? Like ideas of like what we find attractive, or what is conventionally attractive. A lot of it is shaped by media and like Instagram to a large extent. And now because there's like more free access to media, like it's not as concentrated as it was before.
Opinions forming.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of people you see, and like as in like models, for example, you see people of all shades and colors and types, and then people start to see that beauty comes in all shapes and colors. Yep, and then they're like
Victoria's Secret got cancelled, by the way. Like this is like the impact of what you're saying. It is true. Victoria's Secret for a long time has defined women's beauty standards, and like 2016, 2017, they got taken to the cleaners, man. And that's just people, speaking out about the unrealistic standards that they set.
I know what you mean, but yeah, man, I mean, definitely when you look at the impact that it has on like people's mental health, like even for men, but especially for women, I've seen it personally, like when you look at things like eating disorders and, like self-image issues and stuff, like I feel like there's a reason that Fair and Lovely just outsells Fair and Handsome by like probably like 200 to 1,
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point,
because there's just so much more of a spotlight on like women's beauty insecurity. And no matter what they do, in their own life, like I feel like they're always judged by their appearance.
And it's hard for us to completely gauge the extent to which a woman gets judged, like हमें पता ही नहीं भाई.
Bilkul, it's again like two dudes talking about issues, something that. But we can definitely like appreciate how much of an impact these things have, and how like that is something that people need to be more sensitive towards,
यार मैं एक बात पूछूं कि I think you've seen this meme on Reddit कि there's like a woman like SJW, social justice worker, like crying out about how women's beauty standards are so unreasonable, unrealistic and everything. And it's like a 4-panel comic, and it's next to a picture of Victoria's Secret. And below is like a man, and he's looking at a picture of a guy with like a 6-pack and, perfectly fit. And he just says, I'm going to go hit the gym. So I don't think that's completely true. I think there are men who do have body image issues, like men who complain about the standards that are... But I don't think it generally comes in terms of physical appearance. Like most men, first of all, don't care about how they look, how their friends look, or any of that. And generally also women don't care about how men look. I am personally deeply dissatisfied with how many women have told me that it will make no difference what you look like. So मुझे पता है कि ये हकीकत है, like women don't care at all about what you look
exactly.
like.
That's the thing, man. And even people in general don't care, if like let's say you're like in a field that has nothing to do with your appearance, like you're not a model or an actor or anything. You're like a banker, like no one's going to judge them by their appearance, you know, like someone like Ben Bernanke or Alan Greenspan, you know, like no one's ever like
Lauren, like no, not Lauren Summers. What Summers? Larry Summers, yeah.
Dude, Larry David, Larry King, you know, dude,
any Larry, like, Larry's like an ugly name.
Man, I mean, when you think about how like immensely popular these people are, you know, and like how so many women would do them in like an instant, you know, like not even thinking about it, and how they're never like judged critically for looking the way they do. They're judged by like what they do, you know, for being good comedians or actors, or you know, for their art form. Whereas I do feel like that's a privilege that women don't have. Like, no matter what they do, you know, like even if they're, say, like a journalist, you know.
Yeah, you have to look good.
Yeah, and like it's no matter what you do, that's the first thing that people are going to notice and talk about is like how you look, you know. And man, it definitely puts a lot of pressure. Like when you think of the amount of time the average woman spends on grooming, right, in a day, and the average amount of time that a man spends,
that's probably in a month. Yeah,
man. I mean, even in a single day, you know, like it's like you're probably looking at least an hour when you consider, like, you know. If you don't wear makeup, like everyone notices too. They're like, "Miss, are you sick?" Or they ask things like that.
You know? Why do you look tired? I can't believe how nasty that must be. But
exactly, man. There's a lot more like eyes on you at all time, you know, as well. Like, and yeah, man. When you know that everyone's like observing like you so closely, and you're like every single part of you is being like scrutinized so closely, you know, like, you know, then that must put like just the crazy pressure on you, you know what I mean?
True. But also, just to point this out, you know, if you're a man and if you look bad, people take you more seriously. Like, as a man, it is an advantage to be ugly, you know? Because, like, log mante ki you didn't get here because of your good looks. Like, if you're Larry Summers, if Ben Bernanke looked like Brad Pitt, people would not take him seriously. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, that's a very good point, man, honestly. Because, I definitely think about that. Like, man, if you're, like, someone who's, like Ben Bernanke, but your wife is like, you know, like a supermodel, which is not uncommon. And you see pairings like that often, you know? And it's like, you know that, like, that was you just, like, you know what I mean? That's a combination of, like, game and being really rich.
Mostly being rich,
I guess in his case, for sure. But if you're not like rich, but you just, you know, like below average, let's say, and you get like someone who's like a 9 or like even an 8, you know, and that really, it's like you got that through charisma alone, you know what I mean? Like you're being really like a standout personality, as opposed to, it clearly wasn't based on looks, you know what I mean?
True. And हम तो ये काफ़ी कहा हो कि you know खूबसूरती मर्द पर यार सिर्फ ज़ाया होता है. There is no use for being, you know, a good looking man. कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता कि जो ब्रैड पिट है, मुझे लगता है कि वो भी सिंगल है बंदा. तो
शायद I think he did get divorced, right? Like यार उनकी जोड़ी वैसे बहुत कमाल की थी. Not that I like ever talk about celebrity gossip. But I feel like they were definitely a power couple of sorts, you know, or at least seemed to be one, because they were both, you know, really talented, really attractive, and like, you know, like Brad Pitt was the guy every girl wanted, and Angelina was like the girl every guy wanted.
True.
And that was like, I don't know what happened, but fuck, dude, shit happens, you know. And it's Hollywood relationships are usually short-lived, so all things considered, it actually lasted quite long.
I agree. And honestly, People don't understand this, but Angelina is proper crazy, yeah? Like, her
No
history,
way.
yeah, her history with, I don't know, there's this movie called not Bad Santa, Mall Santa, and Billy Bob Thornton, that was her ex, yeah? And she used to carry a vial of his blood around her neck, and they were just a proper weird couple.
That's fucking weird, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah, and that's not even like scratching. That's not scratching the surface. It's not. She's had very inappropriate relationships with her brother. She's a very weird person in general. Like I will give props to the fact that she did do a lot of work for the UN. She was an ambassador. She did adopt a lot of kids. She's a great woman, but she's weird. Yeah. And Brad Pitt is, Brad Pitt. The reason the divorce happened was because he couldn't manage his drinking and his anger issues. So he kind of went all out on the kids. And that's why that happened. But it's quite unfortunate. But at the same time, coming back to what we're saying, like I completely agree if I was a woman, I've said this a lot of times कि मेरी ज़िंदगी काफ़ी और आसान होता कि and I think women also acknowledge this fact that good-looking women have it a lot easier. और यार मैं एक छोटे से कहानी बताता हूँ कि लोग मुझे समझते नहीं कि मैं जब यूनिवर्सिटी में था मेरे एक दोस्त था और मेरे काफ़ी दोस्त था ये सिर्फ एक वो वैसे दोस्त है कि इसके अलावा मेरे कुछ याद ही नहीं है उसके बारे में मगर we were about to it was like a weekend and I was in his room उसकी दोस्त भी हमारे दोस्त है तो he said you want to get tea and I said yeah so we went to get tea so we're walking and on the way we're talking about like this अब इस माहौल में मैं काफ़ी कुछ कह सकता हूँ आप भी कि हम समझते एक दूसरे को we're not like hyping each other up हम सिर्फ जो हकीकत है वो बता रहे like I don't really care if how I look in this कि I'm not being conscious about what I'm saying तो मैं उस हिसाब से उनसे बात कर रहा था and I told him buddy there's two kinds of people who have it easy in life right and for context बंदा काफ़ी डार्क था और मिडिल क्लास फैमिली से था और मेरे जहन में ये सब चल रहे नहीं थे उस वक्त में तो मैंने उनसे कहा there's two people who have it easy in life the good looking ones and the rich ones and यार ये मेरे लिए हकीकत है कि I don't personally believe I am either of those things but like I do think this is true मगर बंदे ने ये सुना and he looks at me and he's like you can't just say that and I'm like what do you mean he's like you can't just go about saying things in your favor and I'm like oh I don't think this is true for me I just think it's true मगर अक्सर ये सही है कि if you're a good looking woman your life is a lot easier you get काफ़ी तरक्की युग होते जाता है आपके and if you are rich like your life is easy as well मगर मैं कभी ये सोचता नहीं कि I have gone ahead because of either of those things I don't think now I cannot completely deny that as well at the same time मानता हूँ कि कुछ ना कुछ असर होंगे इस बात के मगर यार like I said if I was a woman or if we were women we'd have honestly accomplished a lot more in our lives कि जितने मेहनत हमने की है हम काफ़ी तरक्की की होंगे I always self-share if I was a woman I'd be married and have kids by now वो बात ज़रूर होता है भाई उसके अलावा जो हमने प्रोफेशनली की है वो भी पता नहीं like it is honestly hard to be a woman in the workplace that I बिल्कुल मुकम्मल मैं acknowledge करता हूँ कि मेरे काफ़ी दोस्त थे जैसे मैंने कहा जो आयरिश बंदा था वो मुझसे यार सिर्फ 5-6 साल बड़ा है and he's from a western country and at some point there was this woman who we used to work with and we work in construction one day he just tells me hey Fahad what I think there's no place for women in this office and I'm like dude are you for real like I didn't call him out मेरी दोस्त है भाई अगर वो कुछ भी कहता मैं मानता मैं उस तरह की बंदा हूँ मगर समझ आते कि यार लोग की सोच में अब भी ये पड़ा है कि it's not easy to be a woman in the workplace I agree there's a lot of sexual harassment going on I agree it's very hard for women even if you काफ़ी तरक्की की है आपने professionally people always think that you have done something to get that far they don't Like if a man gets a promotion, it's like, you worked hard for it. But if a woman gets a promotion, it's like, what have you done for it? Who have you gotten hard for this? Yeah. But वो भी बेइंसाफी है.
बिल्कुल यार. And bro, I'm surprised that that's coming from someone from Ireland, because Ireland's quite ahead when it comes to like gender parity, if you look at like the Irish Parliament, for example, it's like it's if you look at like percentage of women in the Irish Parliament, it's like one of the highest in the world. And in terms of like even like gender equality index, which I do think is a good measure of how like ahead a country is like socially.
True.
In terms of like social development, the extent to which like women are treated fairly.
Yeah.
I think you'll find that in countries that with high, human development, you're also going to find like high levels of gender equality.
Yeah.
Definitely true of like Norway, Sweden, Finland,
Nordic,
Denmark. Iceland especially, all of these countries just happen to be very high on both those things.
Yeah.
And Ireland is also one of them, man. But there are many like more paternal attitudes there still because of the influence of like the Catholic Church, for example. A lot of people are like on the more conservative side where they still have these views about like gender roles and like sexuality and stuff that are quite like controlling.
सही मगर यार बात यह है कि बंदा नॉर्मल लाइफ में ये मानता नहीं like he's a very nice gentleman, but ये मैं काफ़ी अक्सर देखा हो कि जो कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री है ना उसमें यार ये सोच काफ़ी चलता है कि I've been in this field for a while और आज तक ना मैं मेरे वर्क प्लेस में मुझे बंदियाँ मिलते ही नहीं भाई कि I'm not complaining about it, मगर it's a completely male dominated field to an extent where एक तो बंदियाँ वहाँ काम करने नहीं चाहते हैं कि it's not really a workplace that they would want to be a part of. और दूसरी बात यह है कि even the men like don't really take them seriously कि हमेशा मर्द की वो फीलिंग होता है कि वो ये यकीन करता है कि men build things, and if you like, I understand where he's coming from, which is why I said I didn't call him out on it कि अगर हमारी workforce है जो laborers होता है सब मर्द है भाई कि you don't see there are poverty-stricken women in India as well, but you don't see them come abroad and work in construction. तो मुझे समझ आता है कि इंडस्ट्री के हिसाब से वो क्या रहा है कि a woman in this field is kind of out of place. But at the same time भाई तो गलत है बात कि if you look at like he was in Switzerland right before this, and even in a place like that which is like close enough, let's say European Nordic standards of gender parity, you still don't see that many women in the construction field. और जैसे मैंने कहा यार मेरी यूनिवर्सिटी की बात मैंने बंदी से मिला ही नहीं कि मेरी पर्सनल लाइफ काफ़ी ड्राई था और वैसे मेरी ज़िंदगी में एक बड़ी खूबसूरत बंदी मेरे ख्वाब में थे, मगर उसके अलावा मैंने बंदियों से मिला ही नहीं और ना मेरे काम में नज़र आए भाई कि I can tell you, I can count on my fingers the number of times I've seen a woman in the workplace in my career. Yeah, that's how rare it is. So
fair man. Yeah. But like even if you look at like engineering, right? Yeah. Like, and that's another field where women are like outnumbered by men. Like there are mechanical engineering classes where you'll see like 200 guys for and like one girl, that's very common as well. And tech, like even if you look at tech, like which again, like a lot of people who do computer engineering or computer science, they go that route. Like that's not like unlike construction, that's one where like
it's more white collar.
It's exactly like it's nothing where where being of any one gender would like give you a leg up in that field, like
Yeah.
in terms of like physical advantage or anything like that. But despite that, man, like women are like outnumbered in those fields, even in tech where it's all like coding, all like computers, you know. And a big reason for that, I think, is because it's like already a male dominated space. Women don't like want to go in that direction, you know, because they're likely to face like sexual harassment or like unfair like workplace treatment, or like you said, people won't take them seriously, you know. And a lot of these companies have been like caught up in those, you know, sexual harassment lawsuits. Like Uber had a really big case a few years ago, you know. And even women have talked about how they left the field, like even if the ones who were in the field like ended up leaving because it was just a very toxic environment to be a woman in, you know.
ज़रूर यार, मगर हमने इतने बात आई थिंक वी शुड रिप्रेजेंट बोथ साइड्स है. एंड जैसे मैंने आई थिंक आवर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इज़ वे काइंड ऑफ डिटैच फ्रॉम दीज थिंग्स. लाइक हमारे पर्सनली कोई गेन या लॉस नहीं होता है. हम यहाँ यू नो जज करने आते हैं, तो द जज यू नो जनरली लिसन्स टू बोथ साइड्स. So if now for everything we've said, the opposite is also true. So if we're talking about gender parity, there are certain environments where women fare much better than men, and it's not fair. And this is something that is personal to me. कि मैंने एक ज़माने में एक फैसला ली थी, and it's because it was not in my favor to work in a certain field, right? So this is around 2015, and if you look at modeling as an industry, right? Female models are paid a lot more than male models. Male models are almost not even considered. Like in the year 2015, the highest paid female model was Giselle Bundchen, and she made $15 million. And the highest paid male model was Sean O'Prey, and he made $1.5 million, right? Now that's an industry where it's the exact opposite. Like female models, they can make, you know, in their 20s, they can make enough money to last their lifetimes. And male models don't get anything, right? Like 1.5 million is not representative of what most men make. They barely make enough to get by. So it was like, जैसे मैंने कहा, it was a time when I did get a few opportunities, and I decided not to pursue it because I know it's not in my favor, you know, कि मेरे कुछ तरक्की नहीं होने वहाँ. तो again, like there are two sides to this, and there are people like आजकल वैसे एक ज़माने थे जब हर बंदा या हर बंदिया पैरिटी की बात करता था जैसे इक्वल होने थे, लाइक इगैलिटेरियन. मगर आजकल ऐसे नहीं होता है कि आई फील लाइक पीपल हैव कम टू देयर सेंसेस अ लिटिल बिट मोर. आई हियर पीपल सेइंग, यू नो, men and women should not be discriminated against, rather than them saying they deserve exactly the same thing, you know. कि हम equal, I don't think कि हम equal हो सकते हैं, कभी नहीं. like एक मर्द और एक दूसरे मर्द भी equal नहीं हो सकते भाई. but I think इंसाफ ये है कि दोनों की आप equal opportunities तो देने ज़रूर है, and you have to judge them based on, you know, what they are and not based on preconceived notions. ये मैं मानता हूँ, but you can never be truly equal.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's what parity measures as well, is just like the extent to which that in terms of human development and what insani hukuk ke hawale se, how equal are they, you know? Like do they have the same like political rights? Because like if you look at Iran, for example, you know, which ranks like at among the very bottom on like gender parity, there, man, there's a law that if you testify in court, right?
Yeah, a woman's testimony is 1/4 of a man's.
Half. So they're worth at least half that of a man, you know. So that you would need a witness account from two women for it to be equal to that of one man, you know. So there, it's like those things where I think that's where people really make the big leap, and you know, a lot of like mutawas especially, they run wild with this, where it's like, you know, they take the idea of like, because there's biological differences between men and women, there should also be like legal differences between men and women, you know.
Dude, Mutawa's running wild is honestly making me lose it. It's Fuck, it's beautiful. But
bro, it's sad to see that in Iran, which
used
is like
to be,
even historically, like even before the Shah, like I wasn't a big fan of the Shah personally, but like Iran, like Persia as a civilization, never really had this kind of like
gender disparity,
like discrimination. Like I've met many Persians here and in Australia as well. There's a huge community that most of whom left in 1980, left the country. Yup. And many many of them are minorities, who left for obvious reasons. Like Baha'i, there are many Baha'is, there are many Jews, some Iranian Christians as well. But for the most part, it's just like secular Muslims who left, who just didn't agree with like this kind of imposition of like ideas on people and so, especially like curtailing women's rights based on this idea that they're biologically different, so we should also have like different rights. But with modeling, man, I would say like looking at it purely from like an pure economic standpoint, it's like, man, if you think of compensation in any industry, right, it's tied to competition, right? Like if you think about just the competition to become a female model, right? Like a woman model, sorry. Man, you have to be like 1 in a million women, there's so many women who are competing to be models. Like even if your odds of standing out there are so much lower, it's kind of like even I think that explains to a large extent just the gap in compensation too. It's just there's so much more consumption of like female modeling as a media form. So many more people are engaging with it and consuming it and sponsoring it. And just as an industry, it's much bigger that we see bigger like salaries for that. The way we would with men's and women's sports, right? Like when you look at men's sports, you know what I mean? Like the NBA versus the WNBA. If you look at the numbers there, at every level, like revenue at the top, how much the players make, how much the viewership is. I think that's usually what it's proportionate to, like salaries are always proportionate to viewership and like following and advertising. They're tied to all of those things. And it just so happens, man, like men's sports are obviously in general more like, intense and have a bigger following. And women's modeling for various reasons, has a bigger following than men's modeling.
I agree. Like no man has ever bought anything because a male model has look good doing it. It makes sense. Like I'm not saying it's discriminatory. Like I completely understand both industries, and it makes sense why female models are paid more. But there's no use barking up that tree. It's just economics at the end of the day. It's not discrimination.
It is.
But
for sure, man. I mean, even porn stars, I think, is the same thing. Male porn stars versus female porn stars. Like you're going to see a big like how much they make. Like if you look at the highest paid female porn star versus Johnny Sins. I guarantee you, like the woman porn star is making like times more than the male guy.
Agreed. For the same work. But maybe we're almost. This is really interesting, but we're almost at the hour mark. I want to continue this, but what do you want to call this one?
Let's call it Freakonomics.
Oh, 10 points to Gryffindor. Dude, you're on fire with the titles today. We'll see. This has been Season 3, Episode 2 Freakonomics. We'll be back in the next one to continue this. See you there.